to have like once every few months. Um, you know, Phil Galfond in his Bluff articles last year and at the beginning of this year just sent bubbles off in my head about how I was thinking about the game, and he had an excellent article, which is "You Are Bad at Poker, Part 1", which I think is probably the best thing I've ever read, because it was just well written and very simplistic. And it was like, you are bad at poker, don't take this the wrong way, but for these reasons. And he went into detail about the way people's thought processes about poker are flawed. And he went through the article on how you should remedy the thought process. And he was even talking about a hand when he was mentoring a guy at 25-50. I mean, people that play at 25-50 are pretty competent, generally speaking. And yet this guy had a big flaw in his thought process. And, you know, Phil Galfond mentored that guy into correcting his thought process. So he's given, you know, one thing he said in terms of an epiphany was, when you make a bet, what would you like your opponent to do? I just used to bet without really any kind of deep thought of what I wanted my opponent to do. And, you know, if you get into those situations where you don't want your opponent to raise and you don't want to start building a pot out of position, then don't bet. Maybe check and call, check and reevaluate, and you've got many more options that you think on each street. Another kind of epiphany I had was, you know, how important game selection is. If you really want to make money, and you're just in this to make money, and to a certain extent as a professional poker player, a lot of why I play is to make money, then just having a lot of discipline and game selection, you know, yes, I'm going to play a lot of heads up, yes, I'm a pro, and most of the people I'll play at my limit I'll beat, that's why I'm playing at that limit, but every once in a while there's a guy that has a better style, that combats my style, and his way of playing is just works really well against my style. And I've got to adjust to him and try and figure him out and come out with counter strategies, because otherwise I'm just going to have this default style of like maybe bet, and he's just a calling station. He's just going to keep picking me off. And you know, I sometimes just like shut the computer down and walk away and realise that, you know, I'm not got an edge against this guy. This guy's beating me, because when you play poker, you've got to have an edge. You've got to have an edge at a 9-handed table. You've got to have an edge at a 6-handed table. You've definitely got to have an edge heads up. I'm not going to sit and play someone just as good as me, because we're just going to end up playing rake at the end of the day. No one's going to win. There's only a few hours in a day that I want to play, so I've got to make sure that those hours are as profitable as possible. So my big epiphanies at the moment, if you like, or things that have really sunk in for me, have been having a proper thought process in the game and game selection.